Good morning, everyone. We'll get started with today's class. In the previous lectures, we were looking at op-amp based circuits, and we looked at what is called as the inverting amplifier and the non-inverting amplifier. We also briefly looked at feedback, negative feedback. What are some of the properties of negative feedback and how it applies to op-amp based circuits and in general negative feedback circuits, how you can apply those principles. Now, towards the end of last class, I was talking about the non-inverting amplifier, and I mentioned that the input impedance of a non-inverting amplifier is infinity for while using an ideal op-amp. Okay? Now, the assumption of an ideal op-amp is not a very bad one. It is fairly a practical assumption. It is only in certain cases that we need to take into account the non-ideality. Otherwise, for most of the discrete analog experiments or circuits, you can basically take it to be fairly almost an ideal op-amp. Now, in a non-inverting amplifier, just to refresh our memory, we give the input here and we have a feedback network which looks like this. Let's say this is your R feedback. Let's say this is your R1 and this was grounded, right? And we saw that the input impedance is infinite. The gain is given by 1 plus the feedback resistor by the other resistor. And the gain is positive here, which means that the input and the output are in phase. And the output impedance is 0 because it is an ideal op-amp, right? Now, in the case of a inverting amplifier, which we saw maybe 2 classes earlier, we saw that this was grounded, the positive terminal, and the other terminal, the input is given at the negative terminal through a resistor. So your Vin is given to the negative terminal. And let us say this is your input resistance and this is your feedback resistance. Here the gain was given by minus RF by RN. And of course, the output impedance is again 0 because we are dealing with an ideal op-amp. Now, what is the input impedance? Can you tell me?
Infinity.
Why is it infinite?
Rn.
It is
Sorry,
Rn.
sorry. R, yes.
Yeah. So for example, let's stick to R1 so that you don't have multiple Rns to confuse everyone. So the input impedance is nothing but R1 because there is going to be a current flow here. And if you recall, the way we solved this thing is to use the concept of virtual ground. That is to say that the voltage between these 2 points is basically 0, which means that the negative voltage is also 0. And the current which is drawn from the input is V in by R1, right? And therefore, your input impedance is R1. Now, here you see that there is a significant disadvantage when you talk about a non-inverting, when you talk about an inverting amplifier. What is the disadvantage? That the input impedance is nowhere close to infinity. Okay? And especially, let's say you want to have a gain of 100. Okay. So if you want to have a gain of 100, what will you do? This ratio has to be 100. So let us say if you put RF is equal to 100 kilo ohm, which is in fact quite a high value, your R1 has to be 1 kilo ohm, which means your input impedance is now only 1 kilo ohm, which is actually quite a low value, right? So let's say you have a source, which is a pretty bad source, which means its internal impedance is quite high. And if you have an input impedance of just 1 kilo ohm, you are going to lose a lot of, signal, right? So if we model this to be some V source with some R source, let's say RS. Now the overall thing, basically from here to here, it is RF to R1. V out by Vs can be written as what? R1 divided by R1 plus RS multiplied by minus RF divided by R1, right? So basically you'll get minus R divided by R1 plus RS. In fact, so what you're going to get is that the gain is going to significantly become lower because of the low input impedance, whereas that problem is not there in the inverting case, sorry, non-inverting case. So here, if you have, doesn't matter even if you have a pretty poor source, right? Let's say this is Vs and this is Rs. Even if your Rs is in the order of some, kilo ohms or tens of kilo ohms, it really doesn't matter because the input impedance of your non-inverting amplifier is infinite, right? Now, how to solve this problem? So one thing that you can tell is, okay, if just increase R1 and correspondingly increase RF, right? That is the only thing that you can basically do with this particular circuit. So if you want a gain of 100, then you have to, and you want your input impedance to be at least 10 kilo ohm, then you have to go for 1 mega ohm feedback resistor. If you want even higher input impedance, you've got to keep increasing the input, not only the input impedance. So for example, if you want Rn required is, let's say, 1 mega ohm. Now what will happen? Your feedback resistor will become how much?
100
100 mega ohm, which is kind of an impractical value, right? You really cannot get such a large resistor, right? So there is another technique by which you can enhance the input impedance. Okay, so let's talk about enhancing the input impedance of inverting amplifier using reasonable resistor values. So what I will do is I'll take the same example where I want my gain to be 100 and I want my Rn required to be 1 mega ohm. And I am also going to give the constraint that all resistors are less than or equal to 1 mega ohm. Okay. That is, I'm not going to go beyond 1 mega ohm. And I want my input impedance to be 1 mega ohm. Now that is not possible with a circuit like what we have seen here, right? Because your RF has to go to 100 mega ohm in order to satisfy the first conditions. Okay. Now here comes this circuit. So what I will do is first let me draw the circuit, and then we will kind of analyze how this is working. And then we will get an intuitive understanding also as to how it is basically working. Okay. So let us say this is V in. Let's put some names R1, R2, R3, and R4, right? And this is our V out. Okay. Now the R's. Okay. All right. Now the condition is that you need a gain of 100 and you want your input impedance to be 1 mega ohm. Now, first of all, how is this going to work? So let us try to annotate on the same schematic. So the current, what is the node voltage here?
0.
It is going to be 0 volt, right? It's going to be 0 volt because of virtual ground. And therefore, what is the current that is going to flow here? V in by
R1.
R1. Okay. Now this current, let us call it as I. This current, there is no current flowing into the op amp, and therefore the current flowing here is also the same I. Okay. Now what is going to be this voltage?
V in minus I times R1 plus R2.
Right. This current flowing like this end is 0 volt. So there is no other current flowing through this resistor R2, right? So the voltage across R2 is going to be in this direction, which is this I times R2.
R2.
Right? And this node voltage is going to be minus I times R2. Okay. Let us call this node as node A. So VA can be written as what? Minus I times R2. What is I? Minus V in by R1 into R2. Okay. So that is the voltage at this particular node A. Now, what is the current through R3? So right now there is a current I flowing here. What is the voltage across R3 here? This is grounded. This is minus I times R2, right? What is the current? Let us call it as I3 defined in this direction. What is the value of I3? Can you tell me?
V in into R2 but divided by R1 into R3.
Into R3 or into 1 by R3?
No,
It is V
denominator.
by R, right?
R3 is in denominator,
Yeah.
yes.
So minus V in into R2 by R1, this is the voltage multiplied by 1 by R3 is the current that is flowing through R3. Is current that is flowing through R3, right? Because the voltage here is basically minus I times R2. Same voltage, right? Now, what is the current that is flowing through I4? I mean R4. What is I4? I4 is nothing but I plus I3, right? So what will you get here? Minus in into R2 divided by R1. That is the, sorry, minus V in by R1. That is I. Plus what is R3? Minus V in times R2 by R1 into R3. So what is I4 totally minus V in, if you take it as constant, or rather R1, take it outside, 1 plus R2 by R3. Correct. This is the current I4 which is flowing through the resistor R4. Now, can you tell me what is the voltage V out?
Sir?
Now, let us put the polarity. The current is flowing like this, so it is going to be like this.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, so current we have taken in this direction should not be IR2 means the potential difference across R3.
Sorry, can you come again?
Sir, the current we have taken from going from ground to A. Sir,
Yeah.
is not so the polarity should be positive means instead of potential minus R2 should be IR2. So,
Just a minute. So this is negative, this is positive, right? So the current is going to be like this. So you are saying that the current is positive here, right? Right?
yes, sir. Say, sir,
Yeah,
positive.
right. This is okay. Okay. Just a minute. Let me just verify if that is a V in by R1 is the current that is flowing through here. Minus I R2 is the voltage at node A. So minus IR2 divided by R3 will be the current which is flowing down. So yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Sir, in the
Okay.
expression for I4, also I think we need to take as V in by R1, not minus V in by R1.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yes. So basically, this is correct. Right? So I1 here is basically I1 is nothing but I is nothing but V in divided by R1, and I3 is this quantity. So both added together, this is what you would get, right? This is right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So the current which is flowing like this, and therefore is V out here.
R4 into I minus I4 into R4.
V out is nothing but minus of I4 into R4 and
plus VA.
Plus voltage at A.
plus the voltage at A, right? The voltage at A is minus R2, right? Minus I times R2, okay? So if you calculate this, what will you get? So let us say V out. Yeah, this is minus I4 R4, and the voltage at A is, if you take this is minus, yeah, okay. So now minus I4, so let us take minus outside. There's I4 R4 plus I2 R2, right? So I times R2. What is I4? Vn by R1. 1 plus R3 by R2, right? What is it? Yeah, R2 by R3. R2 by R3 multiplied by R4 plus Vn divided by R1 multiplied by R2. Correct? So how can we simplify this? You can take Vn divided by R1 as minus Vn divided by R1 as the common factor. You will get R4 times 1 plus R2 by R3 plus R2. Right? Or in other words, you can also basically say that your gain here is nothing but minus of R4 by R1 multiplied by 1 plus R2 by R3 plus R2 by R1. Correct? This is your gain. All right. Now let us look at the criteria that we wanted. Your Rin is equal to R1, which needs to be 1 mega ohm, right? And your gain has to be 100 volt per volt. And all R should be less than or equal to 1 mega ohm, right? Now, first thing is we have to fix R1 equal to 1 mega ohm, right? So R1 becomes 1 mega ohm. Now the other thing is there's there is this factor R2 by R1. Okay. So if you put it a smaller value, it will only reduce your gain. So let us say R2 is also equal to 1 mega ohm. So what do you get? You get R4 by 1 mega ohm into 1 plus R2 by R3 plus R2 by R1. Let us say R4 is also 1 mega ohm. Okay, so this factor becomes 1. Now the gain becomes something like minus of this factor becomes 1. 1 plus R2, which is 1 mega ohm divided by R3 plus 1. Right. Now this is supposed to be equal to minus 100. Right. So what will you get here? Basically, you will get 98 is equal to 1 mega ohm by R3. So R3 becomes what? 1 meg by 98. Okay. So whatever that. So it is roughly equal to 0.01 mega ohm, which is like around 10 kilo ohm. Slightly, little lesser. You can calculate that. Okay. Now what have we done here? By just using all resistors less than or equal to 1 mega ohm, we have achieved an input impedance of 1 mega ohm while achieving the same target gain of 100. All right. Now, this might just look like some mathematical jugglery, but let us try to understand what is the mechanism? What is it that is actually causing this gain to come? What is it that let's try to get an intuitive understanding of how the circuit is able to provide us with the gain while not using very large resistors. Now, if you see the whole point here, the whole key is with R3, right? All the other resistors are all of the same value, literally. I mean, you can take them to be different and then solve it also. That is not a problem. But then, the main thing is this R3. So basically what is happening is that you are fixing this node potential of A by means of this current that is flowing in here, right? You have a certain amount of current flowing, some current which is flowing like this.
Sir, in this expression for I3, I think there will be minus sign only.
Why do you think so? I have defined I3 to be in this direction.
Okay, sir.
See, suppose, yeah. If I define I3 in the other way, it will be, yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So the mechanism by which the circuit is able to provide us with that higher gain is basically that you are fixing the node voltage at A by means of these two resistors R1 and R2, right? But then you have this additional current I3 which is flowing into that node, and that current you can control through R3. In other words, if you kind of try to take it in a more generic sense, right? So here what happens is you fix this node potential A, but if you take R3 by, R2 by R3, let's say is some ratio K, all right? Now, if you are having some current I flowing in, you're going to have K times I current flowing through R3. All right. And as a result, you're going to have K plus 1 times I flowing through R4. Now, by adjusting the ratio between R3 and R2, basically you are taking very less current from the input, but you're providing another parallel path through R3, where you're taking the current from ground, right? Because you're forcing this node potential at A to be a certain value. You're increasing the current and the output resistor, which is R4, and thereby you're generating a larger output voltage. Okay, and thereby you're forcing it to have a larger gain. Okay, so this is the intuitive understanding of how the circuit works. Okay, and the advantage of the circuit is that by using even small value resistors, you can get you can get a large gain with a large input impedance in the case of a non-inverting amplifier. Okay, is this clear? Any doubts? Any questions?
Sir, can you explain this
Yeah.
one again?
Okay, simple. So for example, so let us say you have this I flowing in through the input, right? This I is nothing but V in divided by R1. That is the current that is flowing from the input, and the same current flows through R2. And because of virtual ground, this is at 0 volt, and because only this current I flows through R2, the node voltage here is as I times R2. That is fixed. Now what you're doing is you're putting a resistor R3 from that node A to ground. Okay. Now if you make this resistor ratio R2 by R3 to be K, now what happens, because this node voltage is fixed, the current through R3 now becomes K times I. Right?
Yes, sir.
You can, it becomes K times I. You can kind of write this I3 to be equal to what? Minus of minus, okay, let's say it is plus IR2. This is the voltage divided by R3. So R2 by R3, if it is K, it becomes K times I. Right? So what happens is, through the final resistor R4, the amount of current that is flowing is K plus 1 I. Therefore, it generates a larger voltage across R4, which basically gets added to your output. Okay. So instead of using a 100 mega ohm resistor, which is kind of impractical, you're using only 1 mega ohm resistors at the max, and R3 becomes a smaller value, but still you achieve the gain that you require, because you're kind of providing an additional path for the current to flow, or rather you're making the current to flow through an auxiliary path, which is through R3, which is giving you the ability to generate a larger output voltage. Okay, this is an intuitive understanding, so that you understand how it works. Not just, you get a circuit, you solve it, and you find the answer and you use it, but you should also know intuitively how it works. What is the reason? What is the, fundamental principle behind its working? Any doubts? Any questions? Okay.
No,
Now let us move to another topic, which is basically, let us look at how to do summing and difference. Or
Sorry?
rather, let us, someone had a question?
In an op-amp circuit, what is defined as trans resistance? in one of the questions on the book, there was a term used trans resistance in op-amps.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, we have
and
not come
its
to.
unit was not 1 by GM. I mean, its unit was not 1 by R. Its unit was given as R only. That's why I was confused.
Correct. Okay, so transimpedance amplifier, I still haven't taught yet. So maybe in tomorrow is a holiday, so maybe Wednesday's class I might touch upon it. Yeah. Or maybe if time permits, I'll take today also. We'll see. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So let us look at how to do sum and difference, basically basic arithmetic operations. Now let us say the fundamental problem here is that you have a V1 and a V2. Now these need not be DC voltages. These can very well be analog voltages, which are or rather some analog signals, not necessarily DC. Now let us say if you want to add V1 and V2, or to be more generic, let us say you want to add K1 times V1 plus K2 times V2. Okay. Now how do you build a circuit using op amps? Okay. Now to do these things with transistors would actually be a little tedious, but with op amps things become very easy, right? So if you take an op amp, let's use the inverting topology itself. Now what happens is always in electronics, it is very easy to add currents. Why is it easy to add currents? You connect multiple things to the same node, you apply KCL, you know that, when there are multiple branches connected to the same node, currents add up, right? So current addition is very simple. Current addition is very straightforward. Whereas voltage addition is very difficult, okay? Because you need to put two sources in series. I think somebody's mic is open. So unless you have a question, I would request you to just mute all your microphones. Thank you. So if you look at analog electronics or electronics in general, adding voltages is very difficult. Okay. So let us say you have one sensor, okay, which has, which is VS1 with an RS1. Now, on paper, it is very easy to say you put two of them in series like this. Okay. But then in practice, it is very difficult. You really cannot do it because one of the terminals may need to be grounded and these two sensors can start interacting with each other. You'll run into a lot of issues. Okay. And therefore, it is very easy to add currents rather than to add voltages. Okay. So how do we add currents here? By summing them at a node. So if you want to have, let us say, some K1 times V1 and K2 times V2. So the way we do it is, let's say you have two inputs. Let's say this is V1 and let's say V2, summing like this. Now, why is it summing? Because we know that this is actually virtual ground, right? And let us say we put some feedback resistor here. Let's call this R1. Let's call this R2. Now let us try to understand how the circuit will behave. Now, how can you analyze the circuit? You tell me. First and foremost, there is negative feedback here, and therefore the voltage here is how much?
0.
Is 0 volt, right? Now, because it is 0 volt, what is the current flowing through this path? Let's say I2.
V2 by
V2
R2.
by R1.
V2 by R2. And what is the current flowing here?
V1 by R1.
V1 by R1. And because there is virtual ground here, these two sources are not going to interact with each other, right? Because you're kind of it is almost like putting both the sources parallelly to ground. And the current that is going to flow through each of them is independent of any other source, okay? Which is not the case if you put things in series. Now, what is the total current here? Let's say IF.
I1 plus I2.
I1, yeah. So IF has to be equal to I1 plus I2. And therefore, what is V out here?
Minus RF times IF.
minus RF times IF. What is IF here? Minus RF times V1 by R1 plus V2 by R2. And therefore, what do you get? You basically have minus RF by R1 times V1 plus minus, or rather minus RF by R2 times V2. So in other words, you can generate, you can have an arbitrary K1 and K2. Here what happens, K1 is nothing but minus RF by R1 and K2 becomes minus RF by R2. Now this can be extended to any number of voltage sources here, because all what you're doing is just putting things in parallel. You're just summing the currents, and the current summation happens because of the virtual ground, and you're just forcing the current to flow through this feedback resistor so that you generate the output signal. Suppose you want to invert the polarity, what you need to do, basically you can go and give minus V1 or minus V2 here. So if you give, instead of connecting V1, if you connect it in the opposite polarity, you get V1 minus V2, right? Or K1 times V1 minus K2 times V2. Okay. So that way you can do some difference, or in general, if you have any arbitrary expression, algebraic expression, such that it is some times V1 plus K2 times V2 plus K3 times V3 and so on, this transfer function can be basically extracted. Okay. So summing two signals. So let's say you have two audio signals which you want to add. Okay. So for example, if you want to, if you have, for example, you have a mic source, right? And then you have some, line, or let us say some back music, right? You want to add both. Okay. Now, typically what will happen is that your, nowadays you have all these kind of karaoke machines and all these things, right? So the signal from, let's say, a microphone will be very weak. So you have to pass it through amplifier, right? So that you kind of increase its gain. Okay, most times they may not use whatever I'm showing here, but let's just say, this is one way to do it. It's a very crude way, because, we will talk about noise and other things, right? So this is going to give you an amplified version of the signal, right? And let us say you have another playback signal. Let us say all you do is just you connect it here, right? And you do a unity gain feedback. Now, what you are going to do is you need to add both, right? And you should have volume control. Now, how will you do? You put a potentiometer here, connect these two to a summer, right? You connect these two to a summer and connect like this. What do you get? Let's say this is R, let's say R2 here. This is R3 here. Let's say this is RF2. Now, basically, you have a very simple, audio mixer on an audio signal addition. You have a microphone input, you have a playback input, and you kind of add the two with different gains. Okay. You can kind of add two different signals, whatever be the case, and you can get it. Is it clear? Any doubts? Got it. So now, any questions, any doubts? So let us kind of explore, a few more op-amp based problems, because many times when you write either GATE exam or you write any other competitive exams, or, a lot of times you get op-amp related questions, right? So it's important for you to have a good understanding of how to apply this virtual ground concept. Okay. These things can be solved very quickly, but only thing is you should be comfortable with the concept of virtual ground. So now I'm going to give you a problem, and I want you to tell me what will be the output here. What is V out here? So let's try to solve this problem, right? So there is negative feedback here.
So we have
Right.
to find V out.
Sorry? I couldn't hear you. Can you please repeat?
So our voice got cracked.
Oh, okay. Are you able to hear me clearly now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Sir,
So what I'm saying is, what is the output here?
Now
You want to
yes,
see
again.
this previous slide?
Yes, sir.
So here, what is the mic path gain? Mic path gain can be written as 1 plus RF1 divided by R1 multiplied by RF2 divided by R2, negative of this whole thing. And the playback gain is nothing but 1 into minus RF2 divided by R3. Okay. All right. Now I want you to solve this particular circuit and tell me what is the output. Now in this case, I've given only DC voltages here. What is the output voltage?
3.5.
Okay.
Yes,
How did you get?
3.5.
Okay. So how do we solve this? We have basically we have negative feedback here, and this voltage is going to be what? What is the voltage at this point? Let's call it A.
So 3 volts by
This is
virtue
going to
of
be 3 volt. Right. This is what short. Therefore, you have a 3 volt here. This is 3 volt and minus 2 volt. So the current direction is going to be like this, right? So what is the total voltage across the resistor? What is this current here?
0.5 milliampere.
Yeah, it is basically 5 volt divided by 10K, which is 0.5 milliampere. Okay. Now the same current has to flow like this. And what is the voltage here?
The voltage across
0.5
1 ohm will
milliamp
be
into
0.5.
1K. You will basically have plus 0.5 volt. Because the current direction is like this, the voltage will be like this. 0.5 plus
3.
3 volt.
Yes, sir.
So you will basically have 3.5. Right. Okay. So this is the way you solve these kinds of problems. You apply Virchow short, you calculate the currents, and then you solve these things. All right. Okay. Now, let us look at what is called as an integrator. Now, what is an integrator? Basically, if you have a signal V in, your V out should be an integrated version of V in dt. Some constant K can be there, but basically you have an integral of a particular system, Now, how to integrate a signal? All right. So again, from our understanding of, let's just say, different circuit elements, a resistor does not do any integration, right? So you're only left with an inductor or a capacitor, right? Now, if you look at the voltage across, if you have a capacitor, right? If you have a capacitor, right, and you have some current flowing through the capacitor, what is the voltage across the capacitor? VC?
1 by say integral IDT.
Correct, right? So the current is given by C dV by dt, or in other words, V can be given by 1 over C integral of I dt. So if we want to kind of realize this function, if you want to build an analog integrator, okay, something that can integrate your signal, you can use a capacitor, but the only catch is now this voltage has to be converted to a current. Now that we know how to do, basically we use pretty much the same structure, right? Use some R in here. Let's call this to be V in, right? Now, what happens to the, let's say we put a capacitor in feedback. All right. Now what happens? Now what is this node voltage here?
0.
0 volt because of virtual ground or virtual short. And therefore the current I that is flowing here is V in divided by Rn. And the same current has to flow through the capacitor C. Now what we have achieved here is basically we have converted this voltage to a current and we are pumping that current into a capacitor. And this voltage to current and pumping action is happening because of the way we have constructed the circuit around an op amp. Okay, the virtual short is, making sure that, the voltage is converted to a current and pumped into the capacitor, which is in the feedback path. Now, what is the voltage V out here? Can you tell me what is V out? The current is flowing like this, and therefore this voltage is going to be 1 over C integral I dt. V out is going to be what?
Minus of 1 over
Minus 1 over C integral of I dt. What is I here? V in divided by R in times dt. So in other words, what do you get? Minus 1 by R in times C
Minus 1 by R.
integral of V in dt. So this particular circuit, a very simple circuit, can do the job of an integration. Okay, there are different applications, especially in sensor electronics and so on. You need an integrator. In fact, as you not only just in sensor electronics, when you talk about control systems, if you're going to implement things as an analog control and so on, you use integrators, right? You need integrators to do certain, in your transfer function, and that can get realized as this particular thing. Okay. Now, comparing this equation here, basically you are getting a k of minus 1 by R in C. Now, if you want to have positive integration, all you need to do is to flip the sign of your input or follow this up with or either preceding to this, you can inverting amplifier, or after this, you can put an inverting amplifier. For example, if you want to have a plus 1 by R in C1 and you only have, let's say, V in available, okay, either you can go ahead and put, let us say, R1 and 1 here, right? And feed this to, let us say, this R in, or let's say this is R2 and a capacitor like this. Now here you are going to have plus 1 by R2 times C integral of V in dt. Now you can put this inverting amplifier on the other side also. That is also possible. Okay. Now there is one problem here. In this circuit, if you see this this capacitor, if you look at this particular circuit, the feedback is existing for kind of AC signals. But do you have any effect here? Are you able to hear me? I think I got. Is my voice okay now?
Your voice is breaking.
The voice is breaking.
Okay. Even now it is breaking.
now.
Yes, sir.
Is my voice still breaking, guys?
Yes, sir.
Sometimes.
How about now?
So now it's no, sir.
Now fine, sir.
Is it still the same or is it better?
Better.
Better, sir.
Is better? Okay. All right. I hope you can see my screen. Is it visible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Right. Okay. All right. Now here, if you look at this particular circuit, do you see, is there any feedback at DC?
No, sir.
No, right? There is no feedback at DC. The feedback exists for all other frequencies above DC. I mean, it's a very weak feedback at lower frequencies, and as frequency increases, the feedback, the feedback factor keeps increasing. But at DC, there is absolutely no feedback. Now that is a disadvantage because this can lead to all kinds of DC drifts. Okay. And it can kind of quickly lead to a case where the DC voltages can go and saturate off. Okay. So there is a necessity that we need to provide DC feedback. All right. Now, how to provide DC feedback here? I hope my audio is clear now.
Yes, sir. It's clear.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you have Rn here, and you have the capacitor here, right? But because we need to provide a DC feedback, we have to add one more R here. Let's call it R2. Now, typically, you don't want R2 to be dominant. You want the capacitor to dominate, right? And therefore, this value of R2 is actually quite high. It is there to just provide DC feedback. Okay. Now, by doing this, what happens to the transfer function? Now, for all practical purposes, if the impedance of the capacitor is much larger, much smaller than the impedance of the resistor, then the capacitor kind of takes over, right? But if you calculate this particular thing, we can say that I is nothing but I flowing in here is V in divided by Rn, and V out can be written as what? Minus I times the parallel combination of R2 and 1 by S times C. Okay. Now, this works out to be minus I times R2 into 1 by SC2 divided by R2 plus 1 by SC2. Now, what will you get here? You'll get minus I times R2 divided by 1 plus S times R2C2. Correct? Why? There is no 2 here. Yeah.
Okay, sir, got it. You have written 2, that's why I confused.
Yeah. Okay, so V out can be written as minus V in divided by Rn times R2 divided by 1 plus S times R2C, and V out by V in basically is nothing but 1 minus R2 by Rn into 1 by 1 plus S times R2C. Now I want to compare this. Earlier in the previous just a few minutes back, whatever I showed you, I wrote only the time domain expressions, right? And the time domain, I showed that it is an integrator. Now, the same thing, if I were to write in the S domain or in the frequency domain, what will happen? For this particular case, how can I write? The V out can be written as what? Minus I times 1 by SC, correct? Minus I times the impedance of the capacitor, right? So if I compare that with this, you'll get my V out is in minus I times 1 by SC, or in other words, V out by V in is going to be minus 1 by S times R in C. Correct? This is what I would have got. Now, if you look at these two transfer functions side by side, okay, here you see that the pole is where? Where is the pole?
0.
Pole is at 0, which basically means the pole is at DC, right? Where is the pole here?
So at 1 by CR2.
Right, you set the denominator to 0, you get S equal to minus 1 by R2 times C. Right? Now, by adding this resistor R2, what we have done is that the pole has shifted from 0 to a slightly higher value. Okay. Now, we mentioned that R2 is quite high, and therefore, this pole, let's call it omega P1. Omega P1 is low. Right? So if you were to compare the Bode plots, let's say this is log f on the x-axis, and this is the 20 log of, let us say, integrator 1 and 20 log of, let me use different colors, 20 log of mod of integrator 2. Integrator 2 has the R2 added. Okay. Now, this integrator 1 has nothing but minus 1 by Rn times C. This is the response. And integrator 2 has the response that it is R2 by R minus R2 by Rn multiplied by 1 by 1 plus S times R2C. Okay. Now, how will this response be? Now, the black curve is basically going to be something like this. As I mentioned, you cannot plot DC in a semi-log graph because you cannot define a log of 0. So as you keep going down in frequency, 1 hertz, 1 millihertz, 1 microhertz, and so on, it just keeps going up, right? This has a slope of minus 20 dB per decade, and the pole basically is at DC. It's just a straight line. As you keep expanding the x-axis on the left-hand side, it will just keep going up and up, right? Now, whereas for your second integrator, which is having the transfer function of 1 by R2C, let us say your 1 by R2C is here, 1 by R2C. So basically how it is going to be is that it's going to be like this. Okay, just assume these are lying on top of each other. Okay, so both the integrators act as integrators in this region, in the sloping region. Okay, beyond kind of this point, both act as integrators. Okay, it is only in the frequency B or around R1 by R2C that the integrator 2 stops acting as an integrator and act like a low pass filter. But beyond the other point, it basically both of them act as integrators. In fact, all practical integrators are of the second type because there is no ideal capacitor which doesn't have any resistance. Even if you have only a capacitor, of course, you will have some DC issues, but even a capacitor will have a small amount of resistance associated with it because of the leads and so on. And therefore, a practical integrator is this other purple. All right. Okay. Any doubts? Any questions? All right. Okay. So we'll wind up the class with today. For now. And all right. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.